Mm. All righty, here we are at the Crystal Clear Point Studios, and everybody's doing something today outside the house but me. Deborah Colleen Rose here. We got Lou Ann Morris here, and we got Crystal Teague here. Crystal's in her car, and Lou Ann's in Houston at one of my favorite eateries. Have some chicken fried steak for me. And today we have decided to talk about why people feel the need to tear other people down. Why can't you just let people be who they are and just love them for who they are? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, who wants to go first in that nice little subject?
Really?
Really? Well, I'll be honest. I thought of this as a topic because, I was talking with somebody last night, and they were telling me about a situation with a mutual friend, and I just kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier over the fact that this person who I've grown to love in a very short amount of time was being treated in such a disrespectful manner. And then it just reminded me of bullying, and it reminded me of like I remember as a person who was bullied a lot in school, we all know why people bully, and believe it or not, there is a psychological need for some people to make themselves feel better by tearing people down. In fact, it's so ingrained in our human nature that it's actually taught. When I was in the military and I went through survival training, they literally said, it's going to be bad. Everybody's going to have it hard. But if you ever want to make yourself feel better, go and stand next to or hang out with the person who's got it worse than you. And all of a sudden, you'll feel like you don't have it so bad. And I've seen life coaches on YouTube and TikTok, and I've heard psychologists talk about this. It's like when you look at the lives of other people who have it worse than you, then you realize you don't have it so bad, and you feel less insecure, and you feel better about where you're at in your life. And so all I've been able to find, I haven't found an actual medical term, but when I Google the medical term, it tells me that it's just called belittling behavior. And
But you know what's interesting? Based on what you just said, Americans should be the happiest people in the world because we have a better lifestyle overall than any other country in the world. I don't care what anybody says. We have more opportunity.
Well, I have to disagree with you on that though, because like that I lived in Canada for 2 years, and even though technically I made less money per hour once you consider the exchange rate, I had an overall better quality of life. I was surrounded by multicultural experiences with food. Like when we were living here in the States, even though I made more money here in the States and we had 2 incomes in the household, I very seldom ever got to even rent a movie from Blockbuster, much less go to a movie. It was so expensive, but we were down to 1 income. It was less money. I feel like I had a better quality of life. And so, I guess it depends on perception and viewpoint, and where you're at.
Well, I think it does. I think that has a lot to do with it because Scott practically lived in Canada for 2 years and he enjoyed it. He said the people are very nice there, but he still thinks that what in the world is going on at that diner? Did they put you in the kitchen? Oh my God.
No, why? Do you hear everything?
Oh my God, yes we
Yeah,
do.
they're just bussing in the background, that's all.
Well, they better bring me dessert.
I think I can turn it. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. So, but so I think a lot of it has to do with expectations and your perception of things and all that. So, um, you know, but the thing about it is that I don't understand why it would make me feel better to go and talk ugly to you or to be ugly to you. And I get it because I grew up in an environment that was very much like, I want to bite of that now. And I mean, it makes, when I think of my family, I always think of that line in The Quiet Man with
Yeah.
John Wayne, where Maureen O'Hara goes, "I come from a fighting people." that pretty much describes
Fighting people.
yeah, I come from a fighting people, and
Well,
I never got it.
I think a lot of people, kids maybe not, but even as adults, they don't realize what they're saying affects the other person.
Mhm.
They're not using good communication skills in easing into the conversation or easing into what they want to talk about.
Yeah.
Many people, I try not to be so sensitive. I am sensitive, so I don't know what to say about it, but I try not to be so sensitive, and I try not to, if somebody says something I don't like, I try to think, okay, what did that mean? And what I found out from Deborah is I need to say, what did you mean by
Did
Yeah.
you know that
Okay,
sounded
guys.
really rude? Did you mean to be rude to me?
I'm gonna hop off the call and hop back on in a moment. I'm about to walk inside. Okay.
that? Okay.
Okay. So we're going to carry on. Yeah,
Yeah.
what gets me is that, but it seems to me, at least on social media, that a lot of people go out of their way to be mean
Mhm.
and to be rude, and it's all about having the final word and being right. And why do you need to be right? And what does that get you to be right? So the words that come to my mind are sanctimonious, self-righteous, things of that nature. Pompous. Actually, pompous assholes, what I think of.
Well, and um, I don't know. Most of the time, I think people are just thoughtless.
So, okay, so let's go that direction. Are they thoughtless? Because see, you said something that's almost the direct opposite of where I was going, and I
Yeah.
think it can be both. But are they just thoughtless, or are they really putting some thought into this and being mean on purpose? That's what troubles me. I can deal with stupidity and ignorance and lack of social skills and all these other things that you can come up with on why there's a disconnect in communications. You have your filters, I have my filters. Being kind means one thing to you. It's why we have the different love languages. Those all go into this big wicker basket over here. And then you've got this little tiny wicker basket, and it just says hateful, mean asshole. you know.
Hateful, mean asshole. Okay.
Uh-huh. And I can carry
Um,
this wicker basket. I can carry that and I can deal with that. But this little bitty one, I can't deal with. I don't want to deal with it. If you're a little, bitter, mean, hateful asshole, I don't want to deal with you. I just don't. I don't.
I think it's because people do not think about the way they're communicating. Okay. It's, I mean, I try to think if what I'm going to say to this person potentially going to upset them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to ease into, I was thinking about, or I was talking in my head about, and what do you think? And then
Okay,
kind
so
of move into it.
I
I
got
don't
to
know.
tell you, No, I got to tell on you. I'm going to tell on you for a minute. So Luann and I have these really weird conversations sometimes because we're in the same age bracket and we are on total opposite ends of the spectrum sometimes as far as life experiences and how we
Right.
feel them, you know. And she's had very difficult relationships. I've had very difficult relationships, and they've made her more Pollyanna, I think, at times, and they've made me real hardcore, you know, because that's who we are. We're different people. We have different personalities. So we had one of these really difficult conversations, and I can be real tough on Luann. I'm just very blunt. I'm very matter of fact. I don't call her any ugly names, but I'm like, get a clue phone sometimes, you know? And I think she benefits from that most of the time. If she didn't, I hope she would say something. And I think she knows my intent and my heart is to help her, and that I'm just a very blunt person. So we accept each other from where we're coming from. But after we had this conversation, she texts me and she put the word you in there where it should have said I. And I'm like, so it says, it said, you don't know how to have relationships, when she meant to say, I don't know how to have relationships. But because you said you, meaning me, don't know how to have relationships, I'm calling her up going, do you need a spanking? Do I need to come over there and punch you in your face?
And I'm like, what?
I just spent an hour talking to you about this, and now you're telling me I don't know what I'm talking about?
What?
Really?
And when she said that, I went, what are you talking about?
I know.
She said,
But
well, you said I didn't have a good, I went, no, that's not what I said. She goes, yeah, you did. And I said, well, that's not what I meant to say.
But the point is that I confronted her, or I said something to her, and I'm like, what the hell? What are you talking about here? And, you know, and I'm feeling very unappreciated right now. And so, but if I had not said something to her and clarified that, I could have walked around butt hurt for years going, oh
Yeah,
my God.
because the you and the I are right next to each other, you know, on the keyboard.
Yes. And she's got fat little thumbs, and she's doing this just like me. I have fat
And
little
I was trying to say thank you, you know, for talking to me like a stepchild, because obviously I don't know how to have good communication, uh how to handle relationships.
Yeah, so she's trying to show appreciation, and I'm getting all butt hurt. So talk
So,
about total disconnect, you
right.
know.
So in your communication with others, if it's a difficult subject for you, you need to be real careful about blurting it out or contradicting
Typing.
them without asking questions.
Yeah. And make sure you can type. You know,
Yeah. Be
I have that
careful.
problem a lot. I do. I have that problem a lot. And I've tried using the voice dictation stuff, and it just doesn't understand Southern. It does not understand Southern Arkansas for sure. And so I don't even try to do that anymore. But what I don't get is why people hesitate to ask more questions in their communication.
Well, that's where I fall down, because I had an incident, you know, that somebody was talking to me and I was like, no, when I should have said, what makes you say that?
So let me clarify a little bit with a little bit more information, but I won't give any specific details. She was asked a question, she answered the question, and the person contradicted her answer without explaining why they were contradicting the answer, or even what the contradiction actually meant. While Luann's thinking in her head, that's not right, I don't agree with him. So then they both left the conversation with no clarity, no conclusion from that conversation.
Right.
And then Luann got butthurt because she thinks the person was disrespecting her. Does that cover it?
Yes, but that was probably not, you know, now that you think about it and how you communicated with them, it was probably not that at all.
But see, I know what was said, and I know the person a little bit, not much, and I still think her initial assessment was correct. So I think Luann also tends to overthink things and
Mhm.
gives people a huge spread of giving them the benefit of the doubt
Mhm.
and seeing things from a very positive. I call her the oldest Pollyanna in the world, because she does see things with light and glitter and fairy dust for the most part. And I am not cynical. Let me just clarify this. I am practical based upon the experiences that I've had personally and the ones I've observed in my business since I have been a bail bondsman and a private investigator and a mediator and a coach.
Oh, okay.
What the heck is that? Do we have ghosts?
Yeah.
Do we have? Oh, was that just from the background?
Yes.
Okay. So, but again, that's the big key is also considering people's filters. And I think Crystal was hitting on that when
What was
earlier
I hitting on?
that people have different
How you
types of
doing?
filters, how they process
Here for the
information.
chicken tenders and Texas cook.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, what we were talking about, like I put when you asked what we're doing, I just like rattled three things off, and then surprisingly, it turns out they're quite connected. But
Yeah, that's why I
um,
said let's do all three.
yeah, so what struck me is like our brains process information in different ways, and that's shaped oftentimes by brain chemistry and also how we view the world through our lived experiences, plus how we were trained to view the world early on in life. And the reason being is because I was sitting here, so why do people feel the need to tear each other down? And then I was like, but also why do some people see white and gold and others see black and blue when they're looking at that damn dress?
I hate that dress anyway. I wouldn't wear it regardless.
and and then I was sitting here and I was trying to research on it, and I guess recently they finally actually discovered the scientific reason why some people see the white and gold versus the black and blue. And I think part of it, a lot of it has to do with the way that we as humans assume things based on a split second perception. Because scientifically, they said the reason why some people see it as blue and black, others see it as white and gold, is because in a split second, you have determined whether the picture was taken in sunlight or in shadow. And if you're perceiving the picture to have been taken in sunlight, you're going to see the white and gold. And if you're perceiving the picture to have been taken in shadows, then you'll perceive the blue and black. And so somewhere in that split second, and our brain decided that that picture was taken in good lighting. And so it filtered out automatically all of the other information regarding that picture and began to interpret the signals that we were seeing as though it were taken in the light, versus other people who see it and they assume that they decided that it was taken in shadows. And so their brain filters out all of the other information. And now it's as though it's taken in shadow. So it's blue and black. And that made me think how connected that is to how we perceive other people and through our own lens, where people by and large will belittle other people because they perceive them to be, I don't think it's truly because they perceive them to be weaker than them. I truly believe it's because they believe themselves to be weaker. And in order to build themselves up, they feel they need to tear the stronger person down.
Yeah, but now you've
Or
kind
to
of
lift up.
mixed two different arenas in my thoughts. One is how our brain physically acts and reacts
Mhm.
because of the way our brain chemistry is.
Yeah.
And then the other is our emotional levels based upon how we were trained growing up. And those are two separate issues.
They are separate issues, but they are intertwined and they affect
Oh,
and color
absolutely.
one another completely. For instance, like I'll give you an example. The little actress that played on NCIS LA, right? She's a short person, she's a little person, and and I've heard so many people say, oh my God, that's such an ugly person, she's not beautiful, why is she in this big television show, all this other good stuff. And when I look at her, I don't see an ugly person, I see a beautiful person, and I see a very gifted, talented actress. And so I think they're interconnected and intertwined in the fact that, you know, we perceive things and we make split second decisions. And yes, our brain processes information differently. Yes. But in some instances, I do believe the way our brain chooses to process that information is how we either physically or emotionally decide, was that person born of the light or was that person born of the dark? Is that person stronger or weaker? And so it informs not only how we will visually process that information, but think about color. When you look at a color and it makes you feel happy, or you look at a color and it makes you feel sad. So the way our brains process information is directly correlated with our emotions and how we feel. And so we will then treat people accordingly. So while they're two separate senses, they're interconnected to such an extent, you know, that's my feeling on it. You know,
Well, let's kind of kick it to the curb a little bit and see where it goes this way. So I kind of walk on the wild side all my life, and I've always had a very diverse group of relationships and friends and things. So, you know, one of the things that comes up a lot when I'm working at gigs or when I'm doing a prophetic ministry is people ask me about my spiritual gifts. And well, the thing I always like to point out to them, I said, it's really funny. I said, most people that know me will acknowledge I have a spiritual gift. But what's really ironic to me is that my Christian friends think I'm a great pagan because they think what I do is very paganistic. And my pagan friends think I'm a very weird Christian, you know, and I don't understand why I can't just be in a standalone group by myself if they don't get me, why they have the need to try to fit me into a bucket or into a cubby
Because
hole.
that's what people do. They put labels on other people, and they put people into the categories that they understand. And a part of, I think, some of this is how do you communicate with the people that you care about?
yeah.
Because what's normal for me might be not be normal for someone else.
Do you want me to elaborate on that?
Sure, go ahead.
No, I'm just kicking at her. I'm just
Deborah is 100% normal
She's
Well,
for Deborah.
I'm very
Yes, for me,
sarcastic
I'm
though.
normal. Yes. Yeah, you've
Look.
got a very dry wit,
Yes.
but you're also willing to take more responsibility, in my opinion, in relationships about what's wrong in them instead of holding other people more accountable. Which I think is a good thing to a certain level. I think we should always say, what can I do differently to get a different result in the relationship? But sometimes you just have to go, you know what? I've done my fair share. And this is about accountability and boundaries. And it's up to this person now to be more on top of things or more committed or more accountable. And maybe they just don't have the personality to do it. Maybe they don't have the character to do it, or maybe they just don't want to do it, but it doesn't matter. Am I going to accept that, or do I need to move into a different station with this relationship? That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and a lot of times, sometimes, not a lot of times, sometimes relationships, friendships are one-sided.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, is it one-sided for just this week, this month, or is it an ongoing one-sided thing?
So
Well, all relationships at one point or another are going to come across as one-sided.
Yeah.
Maybe for a minute, maybe for a day, maybe for a month. It's when it becomes, like I said, one-sided for too long and there's no give and take, no balance, no back and forth, that I think it gets to be a problem. But you know, again, it's how we see things. Like, here's an incident that happened with my spouse and I this yesterday. Okay.
yeah.
He was looking at some stuff and remembering his youth, and he come across this he mentioned that one of his old teachers was doing this boot camp weekend getaway weekend thing for martial arts, Kempo karate and all that. And
I remember the last time he went away for an in-depth weekend was supposed to be for several weeks. And it was for this specific type of Tai Chi created by this one specific person and all this. And he's completely blocked out the memories of the other thing. And in discussing this, because I have a very clear recollection of what happened from my point of view, and what happened and the words that were said and the actions that were taken, at least while in my presence. But when discussing this with him, I said, listen, I said, if you're going to go away for the weekend, the only thing I ask is that you don't repeat the things that in the past. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I explained to him what happened from and how I felt and his actions and his words towards me at that time during the king. And he doesn't remember that. And in his mind, I'm making it up, or I'm viewing it specifically only through my lens of emotion, and I'm misinterpreting what was said or done. And his response invariably, if we get beyond that point, is that he felt like I was gaslighting him a little bit. And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to gaslight you. I'm just trying to remind you that, you know, I don't want us to ever revisit that space in our life again. You know, I'm not trying to gaslight you. I'm not trying to go, but in his perception, it was gaslighting. But he also has admitted that he doesn't always remember things very well. And like, I will remember things, you know, like I remember once he told me when he came home from drill that he had a dream while he was at drill, that he came home from drill and I had 5 dogs in the house. He doesn't remember telling me that, right? So he doesn't remember telling me that, but I remember it. But you know, invariably, if we pursue it beyond that, then I'm gaslighting him, and then we're going to argue, kind of thing. So you know, perceptions and give and take. So if it were all one-sided and all me, you know, or all him, we all perceive interactions different way, and some of us latch onto those memories and those emotions and we feel them. I have an eidetic memory, you know, and it's not
Oh,
photographic.
that's what's wrong with you.
Hush it up. So you know, at least that's how it was termed to me. So my thing is like, I don't, it's not quite photographic. It's basically it just defines it as the ability to vividly recall an image you were exposed to, but only briefly, or to, but it also, I find it applies to other things and not just an image. It's like I'm watching a videotape in my head, literally.
But you know what gets me, Crystal, though? Okay, because you know, your spouse and my spouse have a lot of similarities. We've talked about this in the past,
Yeah.
and you and I have a lot of similarities. What I find interesting is that when you bring up something to them about what is bothering you, before this conversation starts, you're the perfect spouse. They're so happy that they're so lucky to have you. And then the minute something comes up about what you'd like them to do differently, they have a laundry list of all these things that you've done that they've
Yay.
overlooked.
Well, you know, in all honesty, I can't say that every time about my spouse. I can say that there were, you know, there's been once or twice where he's gotten really angry. He's done that, but he's typically not the one to kind of do that. He's more the type that he will hold on to it and internalize it and run conversations around in his head and then mull it over for a long time, and you might not even know that he was angry or upset about it until one day you say the right trigger or do the right trigger, then he's going to let it all come out. But so I get what you're saying. I just can't say that he's always like that, but we can all be that way though, can't we? Really? I mean, women.
Yeah.
Oh no, I gotta let it out. I gotta let it out.
I mean,
when it's
women historically, allegedly, of course, if you listen to most men on the internet, can hold a grudge for a lifetime, and they'll be able to tell you date and verse when you did this right and you did this wrong and blah 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 blah. It's like they're counting up a ticker tape in their head of things that you did wrong and trying to hold accountable. And I'm just not that way. I remember things, but when I bring them up, I'm never trying to bring them up to make anybody feel bad or whatever, other than to just, hey, remember this, let's not do this again, or remember this, let's do that again because that was awesome kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
ironically enough, I am the type that I can, even though people think I'm really harsh at times, I let a lot of things slide. Very few things really get on my nerves. But if something gets on my nerves, not even the first time am I going to react to it. I'm going to wait to see if it's a pattern because I figure everybody's allowed a bad day, everybody's allowed a bad moment. But if I start to see a pattern, then I'm going to just go, okay, this has got to stop. This is really getting on my nerves. It's getting under my skin. Are you aware of this? This has to be dealt with. And then once we've dealt with that, if I see the pattern coming back, then I am on top of it, you know, and because I'm like you, I don't want to go back to something. I don't want to go back and deal with something once it's been dealt with. I don't want to go back and have that experience again. And so I could be very militant about it though, and very harsh about it. But I have a rule, Scott and I have a rule. I have a rule, he's agreed to it, that if somebody brings up something, the other person does not get to bring into the conversation things that they want to bitch about. If you want to bitch about something, you have to bring it up on your own initiative and have a singular conversation. You don't get to bring it into the conversation as a retaliation or a deflector or something like that. So,
yeah,
you
I have
know.
like an emotional memory, I guess I could say. All of my strongest memories are tied to emotions or aromas and everything else. But again, that's just like it brings back to how do we process that information? How do we deal with things and people? Because whether we're talking about with our spouses, with coworkers, or people that we consider our peers or colleagues in a respective field or tradition or type of thing, and how do we perceive them? And I just made up my mind a long time ago. I didn't want to really care how people perceive me, but when in feedback after feedback, I'm told that I'm intimidating to other people, or people feel that I talk over their heads. And I'm like, my simple response is, I'm 5'10", 5'10" and a half. Most of the people who work here are 5'7" or shorter. Of course, I'm talking over their heads because I have a really sarcastic memory, sense of humor at times. But at the same time, so that's the intimidation factor. Number one is I'm tall, I'm broad-shouldered, so people automatically, will feel intimidated. But then when I'm using language, when I'm talking with somebody that I perceive to be a peer, or so allegedly they have the same license I do, if you will, I'm going to talk to them using professional language. I'm going to use terminology. I'm going to speak to them as though I am their equal. And apparently a lot of people, while I'm perceiving that I'm talking to you and treating you like an equal, you're in the same time, and this is a hypothetical you, not an actual you, one of you two, perceive that I am talking down to you and lording over you my knowledge,
Well, they
And
have the opportunity to shut down the conversation if they feel that way. That's what gets me. If you don't like the way someone's talking to you, at you, with you, all you have to do is speak up and say, hey, do you know that this is how you sound to me and that we're not connecting? And if you want to connect to me, this is what I need from you. I mean, it's just a real simple
Mhm.
conversation.
It
And
should be a real simple conversation.
that,
I
that
was
is
actually,
it annoys me though. It really annoys me,
Mhm.
especially when people say you intimidate me. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
small children and cats like to sit in my lap. So if they're not intimidated, what's wrong with you? You know?
Yeah, right. It's nice to see your smile, Luann, by the way. I just wanted to tell you that you've brightened my day a lot since we've been on the call.
Thank
You'll
you.
just if you'll
But
just stay on the call, just
I,
stay put.
I, I
I'm
was,
sorry.
Everybody
I,
needs their Adderall today. Everybody
I
take
was,
your Adderall.
I was reading, no, seriously, this is all tied together though. I was reading a little article the other day because sometimes people are rude to you, right? Or people are being inappropriate in social situations and things like that. And how do you handle it? And, I've always been the part where I'll either not say anything at all, which is sometimes the best thing to do, or I will do like Deborah said, try to redirect the conversation somehow. And as an educator, I kind of master all of these things, and I do them instinctively because I've been doing them so long. But she said when people are being rude or inappropriate, or maybe they're trying to do instead of or trying to lord it down on you,
Mhm.
The best way, she says, the best way to actually stop them from proceeding with that behavior or being disrespectful or rude or belittling is to just look at them and in a genuine way, not a sarcastic way, but in a genuine way with love and friendship in your heart, a smile on your face, just look at them with concern and go, are you okay?
Were you
And
dropping
it
your head?
just phrases the conversation. Like, and literally it's like, are you okay? Because, you know,
Okay.
obviously if you
Yeah.
say it in a certain way, it can be gaslighting. But if you say it with a place of genuine concern for the person, it's she says it will stop people in their tracks and they give them the opportunity to self-correct their behavior. And she
Well,
said
and
sometimes
self-correct is really important, even on our parts. So like, and this is where empathy is so important in just even casual conversation. I was at dinner with a friend the other night at happy hour, and I flirt with everybody, because
as
nobody
do
takes
I.
me seriously. And I was flirting with the waiter, and we were getting kind of raunchy. I'll be honest. We really, he could have been a date if he'd been, if I'd been 20 years younger, and single. But I went too far. I did. I went too far. And the minute I said it, I saw by the shocked look on his face, I had gone too far. So I could have been
Deborah.
embarrassed and I could have said, oh my God, I'm a master communicator and I should have known that was too far and been embarrassed and, huffed and puffed and made excuses. But I didn't do it. When he came back, I said, you know what? I went too far. That was wrong of me. I am so sorry. And I hope I did not offend you because that was not my intent. It's about knowing your audience and your connection and reading the person and connecting with them on their level, not about always making it about you and your level. And you know
Well,
what? He hugged my neck. He hugged my neck when I did that and said, oh, it's all right. Don't feel bad. I
well,
just was a little off guard.
yeah. I think that the communication between close friends and then just between friends and then between acquaintances should all be different. Because if it's an acquaintance, somebody that but you don't really spend quality time with, you don't know how they're going to interpret what you say. So you have to use your professional speech, like Crystal was talking about.
Okay, I don't always do that. I'll be honest. I don't. And here's why. I don't care.
Ah,
I
but
don't
Which
give a shit.
which brings us back full circle to where to that comment, like, because some people don't care that they're hurting your feelings. Some people don't care that you're not, but here's the deal.
It's
I
not that
think,
if I'm hurting their feelings. I don't care how exposed I am. I will
okay,
tell somebody what I think, or if we're having that, I don't have superficial conversations. I
yeah,
don't chit chat. Okay, let me just make that
I
perfectly
found about
clear.
coffee.
I'm not going to go and tell you my life story. In fact, most
Okay.
people tell me they don't know a lot about me because I don't share that much with them. But I will if I think you're interested, and if it has a point and there's a value. But I don't chit chat. I don't do superficial conversations, and I will go as deep as I think that person will tolerate. Otherwise, I don't have any need to talk to them. But if what I do is shocking to them and not insulting, because what I did in that conversation with that waiter was over the top, and it was insulting as because it was offensive because it was so sexual. Okay. It was a very sexual comment. I needed to own that. But otherwise, I don't really care what people think about me, but I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm going to treat
Deborah,
them the way I want to be treated.
did you tell this poor man,
Good
should I
Lord.
call you for breakfast or just nudge?
No, yeah, pretty much. but I mean, it was bad. Let me tell you something. Even if I had been 21 at the bell ringer at 2 o'clock at last call, that was a bad comment what I said to him even back then. Okay, I just went there. I'd had
You're
3
gonna have to
bourbons.
tell me this comment offline so I can.
I don't even remember exactly verbally what word for word what it was because again, I'd had 3 bourbon and cokes, and it was
oh,
hot on the patio, and I was feeling no pain. I was loosey. And you know what's really funny? I was there with someone that is my mentor, and they weren't shocked that I said it. So that tells you a lot.
That's because you're closer friends than that. He knows.
Well, but he knows my intent. And again, it goes back to knowing the person's intent. And the way you know someone's intent is you either are able to read them well.
Yeah.
And connect. I got some of that too. Me too. Me too. Oh, what the hell? And or you just know them well enough to know what their intent is. Luann knows that even when I am being really hard on her, that I love her. She knows that. I'll go, I love you, Luann. She goes, well, I like you a lot, Deborah. I don't get offended. I can handle liking me a lot because I know my relationships are demanding.
You're gonna love me, damn it.
So if that's the boundary she needs, so I don't put too many demands on her, I'm fine with that. But that's not going to stop me from loving her.
Oh, you're just so full of crap. Okay.
I am. You're right.
You're so full of shit. Your eyes are brown.
No, they're not. They're hazel. Actually, they're blue today. They're kind of blue today.
Mm.
So
Sorry.
I look like my grandmother. Look at this. I look like my grandmother. Ooh.
Well,
Okay.
then your grandmother was drop dead fucking gorgeous. So
Well, but I still look like a grandmother. I don't look 20 anymore. I look like a grandmother.
no, I don't think you do. You are a grandmother, but I don't think you look like a grandmother.
I don't feel like one. You know what? It's weird. I don't feel 20 as far as like the frenetic energy, but as
Mhm.
far as the emotional energy, I feel 20 again. I didn't feel that way for a while, a long time, about 10 years.
Mhm.
Like,
I call it the over 50 effect, but it can be at different ages, whatever. When you're 20, you're no longer considered a young person. By societal standards, you're an adult. You're like right on the verge of legally drinking. Most of us are drinking already. We have this young abandon. We're fearless. We do things, but we do them because we're wanting to explore. We're wanting to try them out. When we get to be more mature at our age and we get that feeling, it has less to do with our feelings of exploration and more with our feelings of, I have zero F's to give about anything anymore. I'm just going to do it because I enjoy it. I'm free. I'm free to make those choices. I'm finally free. I can do what I want. That's my thoughts. Take it or leave it, believe it or not. But I feel like at a certain age, we just get to the point where, like Oprah Winfrey said, I have zero fucks left to give. I can say what I want. I can feel what I want. And, it is what it is. And not to be mean or hurtful to people, but it's like we can I finally feel free to do things now at 53, soon to be 54 in September. Birthday coming up in September. I'll be 54. And so I'm looking to I feel like I can do more now in my 50s than I could in my 20s, 30s, or 40s. I feel like, and I don't know now, granted, physically I can't turn cartwheels anymore. I can't do the back bends like I used to when I was in my 20s. I there's a lot of things that I did in my 20s I just can't do now physically. But there's so many more things that I can do now in my 50s that emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually, I just wasn't ready to experience or do or understand. And so I can respect and appreciate them now.
Well, you know what's weird is I went to a lecture a couple of weeks ago that was talking about being a rebel because you were claiming your own self and not giving a fuck about what people think. They actually said this during the lecture. And what I realized is that I have always not cared what people thought unless it affected my career. And when I was younger, I would always have to take a step back and go, now, if I do or say this, will this affect my career? Like when I was in court at a bail bond hearing, I couldn't tell the judge to go fuck himself when he was doing something stupid. That wouldn't work. I might say that. I might say that to a client in my office, but I'm not going to. So, I had to learn to pretend I gave a fuck a lot of times when I really didn't. And now I don't even do that much. I've never given a fuck about anything except protecting the way I make money and taking care of my family. That's the only two things I've ever given a fuck about. And what I did not realize though, until probably in my 40s, is that most people did not feel that way. And I was shocked. I was shocked that people actually cared what other people thought. I'm like, why? You know?
Oh my God, my whole life has been like that. Well, my parents taught me, what will other people think? And I should have said, why do you care? But I didn't. I respected my parents, and they have to know everything. They're right, correct? They
Yeah.
know it all.
Yeah, no, not mine. I learned that at an early age. So
Well, I didn't
But-
learn that.
I think that if we can teach our new generations two things: one, to be true to themselves and to not care what other people think, as long as they're following the law and they're being
Mhm.
ethical, and to have empathy, which makes it easier to do that thing. If you have empathy, you're able
Mhm.
to do those things.
All right.
That a lot of this crap will smooth out. And this and I don't understand this need of society. And we only have about 5 minutes left, so we'll may have to do this next week. But the need of society trying to control, it's not enough that this is what I think and this is what I feel about, even though they can't even explain why they feel that way, but they want to force that on other people. Why? Why do you care? You know, I will tell you what I think, Luann, but if you want to go out and ruin your life, I will be here and help you cry. But you're going to do what you do, you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying Luann's going to ruin her life. I'm just, I'm just using that as an
No,
example.
but that's an example.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but I'm not going to sit there and say, well, if you do this, I'm not going to be your friend, or if you do this, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, or if you do this, you're just why would I do any of that? Because I have no idea where she's supposed to wind up. I know a lot of things, but I don't know where Crystal's going to wind up. I don't know where Luann's going to wind up, and I don't know what they're going to pick up on that path either.
But I
So-
think if you're a close friend, if the other person's asking your opinion, you need to give it,
Well,
because
I'm
that
gonna
helps.
do that.
I know you are, but that's going to help them bring those opinions into factor, because they appreciate your open
Well,
candor.
it gives you something to think about and look at it from. I think prisms are a perfect example of how we can be in our relationships. Each side of the prism represents a relationship. And when you turn that prism over and look at it from different perspectives, you see different colors, different angles. And I think that's the whole point of having relationships. And it's why I can't manage many relationships at one time. I only have several, maybe 3 or 4 deep relationships, because otherwise it's too overwhelming to me, because I care about my relationships and sustaining them and putting my energy into them. I want to be able to show up for you when you say I need you there immediately. I want to be able to show
Right.
up for you,
Right.
What do you think, Crystal?
Honestly, I don't know what to think about anything anymore, truth be told, other than if I were to hope for one thing from the future for our young people, just tagging on to what you said, is so much more of instead of creating so many labels for what you think people should be or are not, try to come to a place within yourself where you love and accept yourself as you are, so that you can then accept people where they are in life. I think this was a hard lesson to learn for me. I watch it in message boards, and I see women and men all the time. Why am I not in a relationship? Why am I not going to do this? Or they'll get in a relationship and it lasts 5 minutes, or it lasts 5 days or 5 months, what have you, and it's over. And while it is true that some relationships are only meant to be for a season, one of the things I decided early on, before I met my now husband, is that I didn't want 5 minutes. I didn't want 5 hours, but I was willing to accept it if that's all it was. I decided that the next person I seriously date, I wanted to meet them where they are in life. I expect, because if I expect them to love and accept me and respect me for who I am, who I was, and who I may one day be, I need to be ready and present to do the same thing. We all go into these relationships and interactions, just whether it's that split second decision or we've thought about it, and we automatically see somebody and go, oh, he's cute. He's got a cute butt. He's got a nice smile. Oh, I want to date him. And then you date them and you see, oh, well, he chooses food out loud, or or he's got this one little nose hair and it just bugs me. I'm going to change that about him. And it starts with little things. And next thing you know, you're trying to change the person, and then they resent you for changing them because they didn't
Right.
choose to change. And the thing is, whether we're talking relationships, romantic and lifelong, or brief encounters, try to meet people where they are in life. You're where you're at. If they're intimidated by you, that's fine. You can't control that. And you shouldn't have to dumb yourself down in order to be accepted to other people. So the goal is here. It's like, okay, let's try to meet each other where we are and appreciate us for who we are in this world. So whether you're going to look at me and see that I'm wearing a white and gold dress and love me for it, or whether you're going to see me and see that I'm wearing a black and blue dress and you're going to hate me for it, either way, just meet me where I'm at.
Baby, I'll love you whether you're wearing a dress or not.
Oh, honey, I flashed her my butt last night. Apparently, my dress got stuck up, a static cling or whatever, to the back of my compression garment, and there she went.
Yeah. All right, so we need to wrap this up for now, and we'll talk more next week maybe about this, or maybe we'll talk about role-playing games. I had my first experience last night with a role-playing game. Never have done that before, so it was quite an experience for me.
And she fought, enjoying it so hard. She fought it, and then when she realized she could
No,
argue
I
her
didn't
way,
understand it. No, I didn't
And-
understand it. You have to wrap your head around. I wasn't fighting it. I was embarrassed because I didn't understand it. And I'm like, my God, 12-year-old boys are doing this and I don't get it.
but here's what I noticed from my point of view. Okay, once you realize that you could argue in this game and convince
yeah.
people to do things, girl, you were all
I
in.
was all about it then. Because I was
You
like,
was
okay,
all
I don't
in.
even see what I'm supposed to do because they have this person that tells you what to do. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do? Where's that any fun? I don't know why. I could
Well, the
not
thing is, the person
comprehend.
tells you what to do based on input that you give it. So like I was trying to get to the right answer, and I kept asking the wrong questions of the computer. And when I finally figured out to ask the right question of the computer, then I was like, then I got the answer that I wanted and how to get where I needed to do and what I needed to do.
And once I figured it out, I was winning. I was winning. I'm gonna
No.
yeah, we're gonna do this again next week, and I'm gonna whip their asses.
Okay.
So
Sounds like fun.
But no, Scott and I've had this discussion for 27 years because he's been into role playing since he was 10 years old. And I realized after listening to him describe his childhood, and so this is what we can talk about next week. I never really played as a child. And it's because I spent a lot of time alone. That's part of it. And I mean, I had some play, but not really. And I didn't know how to play. I did not know how to play. And they're
I didn't know
explaining
how to
the
play
game.
either.
And I'm like, what the hell? And I mean, it took me a good probably 30, 40 minutes to figure out what this was all about and how you were supposed to interact. And then once I got it, I got it. So, all right, Crystal, tell them where to get a hold of you and how to find you.
You can find me at www.barutispa.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Baruti_spa, and on Facebook at Baruti Spa. We are, just a heads up if you're listening, in the next few weeks, first part of July, we will be moving locations. We're currently at 618 State Street. We're moving one block over to 613 Main Street. So we'll be on the main thoroughfare. And we are, like I said, now, so we now have 2 estheticians on staff and 3 electrologists. Bear in mind, we don't have 5 employees, just some of us multitask, so we can do things. And we're bringing in a candle line and a makeup line and a clothing line. So we're getting ready to expand our retail sections. And by clothing, I mean spa clothing. We're going to be doing robes and wraps and slippers and things like that. So you can take the spa experience home. I'm open. I'm not
All right.
open. I'm just here. This is my office day, dude. This is my office day. You know, Mondays I'm closed.
All right, Luann, tell them where to find you and what's going on with you.
I'm on Facebook. It's Herbaloo's Apothecary. Also, I have a web page, herbal-lou.com. And you can reach me at, good question, herbalblue1105@gmail.com.
All right. And I am Deborah Colleen Rose. And if you just put in Deborah Colleen Rose on Google, you will find me everywhere just about. You can find my books on Amazon. I've written quite a few books. Working on a new book right now about how to do paranormal investigations. That'll be up soon. I am a coach. You can find that at deborahcolleenrose.com. I'm a private investigator. You can find that at isgu.com. This show is sponsored by milesofsmilesevents.com, which is our interactive entertainment group that Luann and I are a part of. So we're everywhere and we give you a lot of things to pick from. And of course, then we have our podcast every week. So we will see you guys later. And if you have any things that you'd like to hear our opinion about, feel free to write me at deborahcolleenrose@gmail and we'll talk about it. I'm sure I have an opinion about it. I'm sure. So,
Yep,
all right,
she
everybody
probably
wave
does.
bye. Everybody wave bye.
Bye.